Hello, everyone. Welcome to the final session of the Economic Times Future Forward Southeast Asia Conference 2022. This is going to be our closing keynote with none other than Richard Polak, Global HR Advisor and author for Work Smart Now. In this session, Richard will be sharing his insights on how to get 30 hours out of a day. Time is relative, not finite and not infinite. Yet it is like sand running through our fingers if we don't manage it. This session will break down a workday and give you tips on how to improve productivity in your company. So join us as HR icon, catalyst, and best-selling author, Richard Polak shares his practiced and tested methods on productivity. Richard believes that every individual and business should have these productivity tools, which will result in building a framework to do more in less time, creating peace of mind and more joy. Richard Polak's experience as a business owner and advisor spans more than 40 years, having counseled over 300 of the world's most innovative multinational organizations in the areas of global human resources, benefits, leadership, productivity, and growth. Since founding and operating high-growth IBIS Advisors in 1995, he has designed world-class and HR benefit programs for multinational firms, including global technology companies that have helped shape the world, world-leading hotel chains, and Fortune 100 companies for whom he has provided behind-the-scenes forensic investigations. Thank you so much for joining us for this conference, Richard. It is an absolute honor to have you. Over to you now.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining this session, How to Get 30 Hours of a Day. Sounds impossible, doesn't it? Well, it isn't, actually. It's quite exciting, the adventure of getting more out of your day. So as we go forward, you'll see how we plan to do that. Now, remember Einstein, all of you familiar with Albert Einstein and the law of relativity. He determined that time is relative. It used to be a theory of relativity, actually, and he proved it to be correct, that the rate of time passes depending on your frame of reference, right? Now, we all observed, we've all sat somewhere together and we've watched either a television show or we've experienced a concert or our work day, and we've commiserated and said, boy, that was a long day. And somebody else would say, actually, for me, it went very quickly. So even the human body with its biological clock has different time at a different place. You know, gravity, the theory comes from the further away you get from gravity, time expands. And the actual slower you go, you get more time as well. So it is better to go slower, actually. And I'm going to talk about all these tips that's going to help you get 30 hours out of the day. Now, if we divide our day up in 3 parts, we get 8 hours is gone pretty much no matter what. If you do sleep your 8 hours, and studies show actually you should be sleeping between 7 and 9 hours a day. And that means basically one third of your life is taken up by sleeping, which is very, very important in order to enjoy the work and the play part, the living part for the other 16 hours. So assuming you work 8 hours a day and you have 8 hours of free time and sleep 8 hours, half your time is working, right? So let's really talk about expanding your work day up to 11 hours and your non-work day to another 11 hours. Let's go on. If you work harder, and this is the premise of my book, Work Smart Now, does it mean you're going to be more productive and work better? I mean, the fact is that there's a point of diminishing marginal returns that shows the average production curve actually goes down after a certain amount. And we refer to that in human resources often as burnout. And burnout's very bad because all the productivity and all the achievements one might have made is lost, completely lost by overworking. So it's really about working smart, not working hard. It's important, of course, to work, but working smart is much more important than working hard. These buckets here, productivities, is again based on the premise of the book. There are 5 basic buckets to productivity in human resources. When you can address absence, presenteeism, absence is easy to understand. Person is out of work, typically because they're ill. Even when they're on holiday, it's an absence from being productive at work. But presenteeism is actually 10 times greater an issue. Presenteeism is actually showing up for work, but not being there mentally. And that's a 10 times greater issue for employers than absenteeism. So to address presenteeism, we go down to the third bucket there, engagement. It's really critical that you engage the employees so that you're able to decrease presenteeism and will also decrease absenteeism. Well-being is certainly an integral part of that. We're all familiar with well-being and all those buckets that are well-being, which is financial, psychological, emotional, and all the other buckets. And then through technology means to do your work the most efficient way through your email as a technology tool. Some use Slack, other collaboration tools. The technology tools are really critical. But in fact, what we're going to be talking about today is optimizing your own individual workplace. This is my chapter 7 in the book. It's the most critical part of your lives because it not only will help you with your work productivity, but will help you with your life productivity. This is me. It's a little younger version of me, but it's still me. And this is my stand-up desk. And this is not just a stand-up desk, but this is my desk that's a treadmill desk. So I'm able, it sounds crazy, but I'm able to do a moderate amount of exercise. And the reason I say moderate amount of exercise, because the stand-up desk is important. If you have nothing, getting a treadmill desk is hard for most of us to do. And then to get used to actually going on a treadmill, if you do have one and you want to experiment with it, you don't go more than 1.3 miles per hour. Because your legs, if you notice when you go for a walk around the block, around your neighborhood with your friends, you become unconscious of the actual walking. You don't think about my left foot's going this way, my right foot's down to the right now, I'm moving to the left, I'm moving to the right, I'm moving to the left. We don't think about that. It's an unconscious effort. The same happens on a treadmill. You're walking, but you're not thinking about your walking. So if you're able to do have a treadmill desk and go at a moderate speed, 1.3 miles an hour, that's what I set mine at the most, then you can actually work while you're walking. I don't know of any other means to multitask other than that, because there is no real such word. The word is multitask, but there's any neuroscientist will tell you your brain can't do that. The people that look like they multitask the best actually switch really fast in their minds, but they don't combine. It's the only means of combining or multitasking that I've become aware of is an unconscious walk while doing your work, having conversations and so on. We all do it. We all know we've done it before. Now, that's the stand-up. When you go to multiple monitors, and I've got statistics I'll show you later, it's the last slide here, that will show how much money an employer can make by encouraging employees to use all these tips that I'm going to tell you. You must have multiple monitors in the workplace, at least 2. Now, in my case, I have 3. Okay, you'll see there I have 2 up top and 1 below. I'll put my browser on one, I'll put my email client on another, and then I'll use my workplace for the third, for text messages and so on. A microphone to dictate. If you can dictate, that also saves a tremendous amount of time. Rather than sit and typing, if you can, there's all the computers now, Windows 10s have it, the Macs have it. It's a double click of a button, and then it says listening up there, and you dictate your messages. Please remember to review them afterwards because it doesn't always come out the way you want it, but they've come a long way. And it's a tremendous amount to be towards efficiency. Then a headset. you need one of these on. The old days, we had our phones. We still have them, our mobile phones, right? And some of us will do this. And before long, you're going to have a neck problem. And then that's going to affect your absenteeism and certainly your presenteeism because you're going to be in pain. So you have to have some sort of either headset or earbuds, which I have normally. I don't use them as much now because the technology in the computers can hear my voice very well, and my dictation comes across very, very clear. By the way, anybody have any questions, you can put them in the chat now, or you can email me separately. The email's on here. Happy to answer them. You can call me. I'm happy to talk to you about other ways to help. So there we've covered the efficiencies. Let's look at the revenue, okay? This is how much, really, it's a tremendous increase in productivity that is, this is all fact-based. It's all put together with, by research. And it all starts really even the day before. And those are my tips at the end. But if you've got to eat breakfast, that will stabilize you, will give you energy. That in essence is calculated as saving you 30 minutes a day of increased productivity of 30 minutes. And this is just a rate I put down of a per minute rate. And this is making the assumption, these all these numbers here, and you see the bottom right there, 261 million of increased revenue. If everybody in the company of 1,000 employees in a services firm increases their productivity and gets their 30 hours out a day, the employer, the company, will increase revenue $261 million. And just go across breakfast, right? We talked about that. And increase productivity 100. You exercise another 30 minutes of productivity. And like I said, exercise, if you can do it before you even get to work, that's good. But if you do it on a treadmill, or you have your meetings, I find that having the meetings, your conference calls, it's harder to do now with Zoom. Since the pandemic, we're kind of expected to be on video quite often. But if there's ways you can have your calls, those calls that are not on video, and you can do them outside and walk while you're doing the call. There's certainly places locally likely for where you are that's quiet, a nice quiet walk, side streets and so on. And you can have your conference calls and then get a half hour in a walk and exercise. Now the transcription service, I love this. All my voicemails that come in are transcribed. All right, I don't listen to them, I read them. And it makes it much, if I want tone in the message, if I feel like I need to hear the voice, I can always go back to the audio and listen to the actual message itself. But the transcription services are able to give you all that in text, and you're able to read it quickly and then respond to it, even in an email or text, or call the person back. Very, very, very simple. And that increases it. We talked about my treadmill desk example of dictating emails and how important it is to do so. It's not just emails. Sometimes we have to write reports. In fact, the dictation app on the computers work with any of the apps in the computer, including PowerPoint. It's harder to use when you're doing Excel spreadsheets, but it's a terrific tool, and it takes practice. All of this, by the way, takes practice. If you're not eating breakfast, it will take a little bit of an effort to eat breakfast. If you're not exercising, it takes effort to do that. Changing habits is the hardest thing anyone can do. My way of changing my habits have always been, the only success I've ever had is doing a little at a time and sticking with it. And that's even hard. Even for someone like me who's a productivity specialist, it's so hard to change a habit. And the only way to do it is do it a little piece at a time. Even when I suggest exercising during the day, just take one of your meetings, even if it's a 15-minute meeting, walk in the hallway in your office, or go outside the office and go in the hallways outside the door. Try that. Any little way to get you moving rather than sitting down will very, very much help you. Keyboard shortcuts, when you do use the keyboard, I had a colleague I was working with, and he never used his mouse. never used his mouth. He could move with his fingers and move the keyboard shortcuts. If you're able to do that, that also increases productivity. And you can see how much it is there on the right as it all adds up. Then task lists. Okay, this is all part 2 of inbox zero. That's a concept many of you are familiar with. You get your inbox to 0 every day. So every email that comes in, it has to be responded to immediately. You need to move it to your task list. You need to delegate it, or you need to delete it. And it's out of your inbox. Now, most of the time, it's hard to respond to emails rapidly, and nor should you. Because like I talked about, if you go slower, time will expand. If you go faster, time will not. So you want to get the most out of the day, slow down. Look at your email, decide where it goes in one of those 4 buckets. Do I respond to it? Do I send it? Do I send it my task list? Do I send it to somebody to delegate it, or do I delete it? Very thoughtful. Then when it gets in your task list and you're at your inbox 0, then you go to your task list, and then you start prioritizing what's important. You should only have 3 to 5 tasks, no more than 5, probably 3 tasks are critical tasks every day. And you'll feel a lot better when you know it's 3 and that you can get 3 done. It'll make you much more productive. So that's optimizing your task list. Use a password manager so you're not constantly wasting your time with passwords. I talked to a cyber specialist, a security specialist, and I said, what's better for me to do? Have a bunch of different passwords that I remember, or have them on a piece of paper, or use a task manager, password manager. And he said, a password manager is clearly more efficient and more secure. He said, oh, let the the password management tool. There's the one I use is Keeper, but I'm not selling it. It just happens to be a good one for me. And there are plenty others on the market. But it will create its own password for all I must have 20 or 30 different passwords. I don't have to remember each one. It's my password manager that does. And what he said that was really most interesting. He said, then there's only one point of entry. And then you change that password every 30 days, your point of entry, so that it becomes one password that you have to remember and not them all. Improve your typing speed. If you're a slow typer and you're not dictating, because some people just won't or can't or find it more frustrating to do so, then improve your typing speed will increase your productivity. Avoid distractions. A study just was released. It was in Israel that did a study about open office space. I know that's been the trend, but open office space has proven to be a very distracting area to work in. Even when you put headphones on, you see people covering their head. You have the noise canceling headphones. They're terrific, but people walking by, really hard to focus on your work. I'm not a big promoter of open office space. Even in the remote environment that we're living and working in, this hybrid environment that looks like where we're going to land, there should be separate offices, some at least cubicles, where people can focus. Manage your email. We talked about inbox zero. Avoid any kind of multitasking. The brain just can't do it. If you can focus, do so. I have difficulty focusing myself, and I have to remind myself to do so. I mostly lose, and I've learned, though, that not to be hard on myself when I do multitask. I go, oh, I just spent this time multitasking, and now I've got to get re-energized into the next task, which wastes 6 minutes of my time, because multitasking takes time to recoup and then reset and refocus. So do your best, whatever tools you can use. And there are many books written about this, or videos on how to try to avoid multitasking. Get enough sleep. This is might be the most critical factor of anything on this list. And the hardest part about that for me, and I've talking to others, I understand it's a difficult, you're never always going to get a good night's sleep. Something always going on in your mind and your unconscious. And when you don't get a good night's sleep, then don't be hard on yourself, beat yourself up, because that makes it just worse. Just accept that, oh, tonight I did not get a good night's sleep, and then move on. Increase your monitor size. Like I told you, I have 3. I think 2 is the minimum you should have. 26-inch monitors too, that's important. Add another monitor if you can. And then finally nap for 20 minutes. 10 minutes a day. As busy as I am, and I'm very busy, I make time. That's one thing I'm able to change a habit, and that I make time and I nap. And I go over there and I lie down and I set the timer on my smart watch or my iPhone or my Android. I have an iPhone. Is that for 10 minutes, and I put headsets on, and there it is. 3 key takeaways. Pick your most important apps. That's my suggestion, maximum 3. These are the 3 that I use, but pick your most important apps. I wrote an article on this in Forbes. Pick an app, any app, but most you should pick is 3. Email, a text act, a task list. Those to me are the most important apps. And productivity begins before you get to work. This is really critical, all right? You want to work smart, get a good night's sleep, have breakfast, exercise, any kind of movement before you get to work. And that's going to help your brain get really refreshed. And use the technology tools that benefit you. Inbox zero, delegate. And finally, it's really important, do only the things that only you can do. There's the quote right down there. That's one to think about. It takes a second to think about it. If you're able to get in your position, your job, to do only the things that only you can do, that pass everything else to someone else, you'll be really, truly very, very productive. I hope this is helpful. Any questions for me, you can reach me at my email or my telephone number in the United States, +1. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. Really appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much, Richard, for these incredible insights. There were so many crucial points that you shared on how we can make the best out of our days and be at our most productive selves. Thank you so much once again. And thank you everyone for joining us. It has been an overwhelming experience for all of us. Thank you for being so participative and supportive. Do join us for the closing note of this conference coming up next. See you all there.